Adriana, thank you so much for being part of Breaking Ground, Dash's relatively new podcast, and I couldn't be more pleased. And so great to see you and for you to be a part of this. You and I go back a couple of decades now. We worked on so many different projects together. So, but for our audience, just kind of take us back to the beginning and how you got involved in residential sales. If let's start at the very, very beginning, if we can.
Well, the very, very beginning, oh my God. Honestly, I began at the age of 22 was my first project.
Mm.
I worked 5 years at a law firm on Brickell Avenue, and one of our clients offered me an opportunity for the Graham Company's Miami Lakes, and I was 22 years old, so it's 29 years ago, I believe. And now you can do the math, and you know that I'm 51. Okay,
A young
so
50.
that's really how I became, how I started in the business,
Mm. Okay,
and of course,
how did you get to doing high-end condominium sales?
um, something, I think that throughout my career, I began that project was Gramercy Park, Regatta Point, Lakes on the Green. Then in 2003, an architect asked me, 2004, yeah, 2003 or 4, asked me to help a developer that was going to set up a new office in Coral Gables as a developer. And Robert Beher and Javier Font, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
So, which I adore them. And again, back in the business, before that, I was 5 years at Young and Rubicam Burson Marsteller, which is a huge advertising company in the world, part of the WPP group in London. And I'm so grateful that, again, 5 years in a law firm, the 5 years being at the advertising world in the center of it all, um, combined with the real estate experience. I mean, I believe all of that combined, and that's when Javier said, you know what, please, and I accepted that opportunity. And after that, I work many different projects in the Coral Gables area, then Brickell area, during the bubble, actually Tampa Bay. And after that, in 2009, the Related Group offered me an opportunity as a director during the bubble, in the middle of the financial crisis. What a catastrophe for all of us.
Yeah.
An opportunity as a sales director, and I was crazy enough to say yes, and it was the greatest experience. That's where I met you, and the greatest lessons that I think I've had, because during the most challenging times is really where you learn the most.
Sure.
And I'm so excited to say that George Perez was an incredible boss, and I'm so happy that I can say that I worked with him in the most difficult times of the company.
Yeah, it was.
I learned so much
Yeah. Do you remember your very first sale?
in real estate.
Yeah.
Um, no, but I do can tell you the most meaningful one.
Sure. Okay, even more important.
Yes, I tell you that the most meaningful one was this lady. I was selling a project called Mediterranea, close to Coral Gables area. And this lady told me that she had saved her entire life as a cleaning lady.
Oh,
She was in her 60s to buy herself an apartment.
hmm.
And I can never forget, it was such a huge responsibility. She was in her, late 60s, and she really put this emphasis on how much she had to work to save that money, because she came to the United States after late 40s, from Cuba. And giving me that money was what an honor, that she trusted me. So I tell you that, oh my God, I've done thousands of sales in this business, but that was so meaningful because it was someone that were cleaning homes at night and day to save that money, and it was so beautiful. Like I tell you, it gave me that sense of, do you understand how important you are? That she, in this business, you need to guide her and teach her and take her all the way to the end because she needs you.
Yeah. It's a real
So that was
responsibility. Yeah, when you kind of look at through that lens, it's a real responsibility, especially someone in that era and that generation, recognizing that they've slaved, worked very hard their whole life to be able to afford something like that.
And it was $180,000.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. and I haven't sold anything for less than 2 million in 7 years. But believe it or not, I can tell you that I'm sorry to all my other clients, but it was the most meaningful one because I told you, so I do want to share that with you.
No, no, that's that's a lovely story because I think that it really takes on kind of certain responsibility that professional
We all have.
have in terms of that people entrust you with your guidance and your expertise to get them to a residence that is going to be meaningful for them as it turns out for you. You've worked on so many high profile projects, and I know that you are referred to as the queen of pre-construction. Um, just share with.
But do you know why I was called that? It's not what people think. I was doing a panel for Brickell City Center when I worked Brickell City Center.
Sure.
I was doing a panel called Learn from the Best, and Terry Alvarez, which I love Terry Alvarez, the broker for Fortune.
Yep.
When she introduced me, she said, "Let me introduce you the queen of pre-construction." And because she obviously is like the woman that probably has sold the most single units herself, not blocks of units, or because she owns a company. And people stay with that. But I do want to tell everyone that being called that in the business is not like a great thing. I'm going to tell you why. It comes with a huge sense of responsibility in this business because it only tells you that people look at me with this other standard that I always have to be learning and growing so I can help other people
Sure.
grow more, do better business. Like the brokers come to me, like she's going to help me close my sale. So I take it seriously because sometimes I say, oh my God, don't think that the queen is the one that serves the most amount of people. It's not that gets to be served. So I take it like that.
I know you do, and there's a genuine authenticity about who you are and your persona. Every industry, regardless, needs to be innovative, and you now have in the in the business 20 plus years. So, how would you say, in terms of what's going on in the world today in high end residential real estate, the innovation in terms of how you begin to couch that and continue to learn and evolve in terms of your business and the people that you talk to, sell to?
That's an unfair question because it's a lot of questions in one. But I do tell you that here in South Florida, we have been so, so lucky that we have the best weather. Today, look at today.
Yeah.
The best weather, the most beautiful blue ocean around us. Look at Coral Gables, look at the universities, the schools, the dining experience in Miami, which is unbelievable. Every day we have a new Michelin star restaurant, the arts and entertainment, no? So I think that all of us have been able to be in this city at a time where we are this baby giving the first steps,
Mm,
and we have been there. So all of us have already realized that if we can build it, it will sell.
mm,
Okay. And we have all also learned from the bubble that, listen, we're not in the financial crisis time, 2007 and 8. The buyer that we have is so sophisticated, so educated, so knowledgeable in real estate and in the financial industry that it takes so much more from us to sell four walls. And obviously, I think that all of us understand already that the people that are coming to Miami, they want the best of the best, and they can pay it. So the time that we would just do four blocks, four walls, and here's your title. Listen, it's over. Look at what we have done at the Estates at Aquilina, which I definitely consider the most luxurious project ever built in the state of Florida. When I can tell you, listen, after all these years in development, I don't say that lightly, okay? And I sold out completely, so I'm not here to sell you anything, but to try to help those who are new in the business. Where every corner was done impeccably, where we have the entire unit finished and furnished by Fendi, Bentley, Baccarat, Dolce and Gabbana and Trussardi, and they selected the fabric, the texture, and the color of every item from the bed to the night table, onyx in the master suites, every single unit, leather in the closet. I mean, like your Chanel purse. Okay. So when you ask me that question, we know how to do it better than anyone. So let's create something, all of us in this industry, amazing because we know how to do it.
So why do you think? So I know when the estates at Aquilina and on are the product of quite an exceptional developer, Jules and Eddie Trump, and the developers of Williams Island and so many other
Um,
projects. They are really considered the elite of the elite. Um, how is it that you got to work with these guys?
oh my God, you know something? You're going to laugh. And I love it because you're my friend and you know me well. So on the last cycle, okay, because we began the last cycle in 2011 after the financial crisis 2009 related times, and that was rough, and that served us to begin a new cycle with a new outlook of this industry for all of us, I think. So I began in 2011, and that entire cycle was so back to back, that I said after the last project on that cycle, which were many, I said, I'm not going to take another project. And I was at Privé Island Estates, which I love that project. I was there until the end and with our friends, listen, Greg and like all of them were so amazing. I love them. And Daniel, I remember that I said, I'm not going to take another project. And I remember that I received a message on my Facebook,
Mm.
saying, are you interested in an opportunity? And I was not. But I learned when I went to work for Howard Lorber as a director for Douglas Elliman that you don't say no to what you don't know. And I remember that I replied, I am very busy this week, but I can go next Friday and meet with you. Meaning in my head, listen, in 2 weeks, they're going to find something that was definitely not for me. And if they wait, because think about it, in Facebook, a message on your Facebook, and that tells everybody listening to this message today, do not disregard. Listen, every social media outlet that you know exists out there, you need to have it open because it can cost you
Mm.
7 figures a year if you don't take it,
Right.
if you don't open it, if you don't use it. So I did reply to that Facebook message, and I remember that I came here 2 weeks after the fact. And when I came, they told me, this is what we would want you to work on. We are creating this tower. We have to still design it and all of that. And I said, I'm going to think about it because to be honest with you, I really was sad that I was not interested. And I asked, can I ask you a question? How did you find me? And they said, we saw you on social media and we Googled you. And I said, okay. And I left that meeting with that thought,
Mm.
and I'm sharing it with all of you.
Mm.
If you're in this business and you don't have every social media outlet, you're playing real estate.
Mm.
I don't play real estate, I do real
Yeah,
estate.
good point. Good point. So that really kind of pivots nicely to talk about technology today and how obviously how influential, how important, how essential it now is in all of our lives, and especially in terms of connecting um, uh, sales with opportunity, with possible clients and prospects. So, so if we go back in time and we talk about what the world was like in '07 and '08.
Putting balloons in 2000, and when I was 22, we would put balloons outside of the property. And that was really it. We didn't have internet, laptops.
Yeah, I know. I remember the era very, very well. And yet, when you think about fast forward 10 years from where, I mean, even where we were 10 years ago or 15 years ago to today, um, from from my background in marketing, when we would do traditional ads, print ads, and outdoor, and all the rest of it, some TV and some radio, all of that is quite inconsequential today in terms of how we get our messages out vis-a-vis social media channels, which is really essential in terms of any agent doing any kind of business today. So I mean, so you were an early adapter to kind of beginning to understand, very personally, how through just a kind of almost an obscure Facebook contact, the next thing you know, you're working at one of the preeminent projects in South Florida.
But it took me a long, long time ago. I think I worked more than 10 projects probably until I got to be a director for the related. So like by then I had sold 5 projects on my own without a team.
Let me talk about that with you for a second. In this day and age, it's very there are more and more, statistically, more and more new coming newbies, as I call them, new agents coming into the business, are beginning to take a look at new development, with a much more discerning eye than they used to. I think that we had Canvas for Dash early on, goes back a handful of years ago. We talked to most of the national brokerage firms, and the question really was, what percent of your agents deal with resales, regular real estate, versus new construction? And the number was like a third then. Today, it's over 50%. Why do you think that agents now are beginning to learn and understand the benefits of new construction?
Well, something I do believe firmly, especially if you're in South Florida. We all know that South Florida shapes every cycle in real estate.
Mm,
Okay, like let's talk about 2009. I believe more than 60,000 condominiums were built on that cycle, correct?
yeah,
And something interesting is that, remember, when you're a real estate agent, you don't have access to the information about those pre-construction projects because that is internal information, and we don't post those prices on MLS. I mean, that's completely a whole different world, and just a group of people that are in this business know what's going on, know the amount of units that are coming to the market, and all the other 64,000, by the way, that is an actual number. It's about 64,000 agents that are in South Florida, and they depend on this group of people. What is going on? Are you sold out? What do you have? Did the price go up? So we do have a huge responsibility as in-house agents to teach, show, sell, train all of the agents in South Florida on how to sell pre-construction, how to sell your project. Because remember, the contracts are different, the process is completely different, the payment plan is different. Explaining, you cannot do this as if you're selling stocks in the market, okay? Because this is not like stock market investment type of thing. So it is a huge responsibility. And on top of it, nobody knows what is really being built in the market during the pre-construction cycle, okay? And that affects enormously because I do believe 70 to 80% of the people that buy pre-construction has been people from out of the city
yes.
for all these years. That's why we had to get on planes to go and sell all over the world, which I have. We just couldn't just put a sign and, oh, it's going to get sold. No, it was on a plane 2, 3 times a week, back to back, cities by cities, Latin America to Europe, France, Dubai, London, Ireland, all over. We have done it, Canada, Toronto, I mean, you name it. So it is just, you need to try to get the information. You need to make sure you know what is out there. Every project that comes out to the market, go to the city department, to the building department, what projects are being permitted. Talk to your architects, because if you don't have access to your information, how are you going to know who has a project in what pricing? Maybe your client wants something 5 years from now, and it's easier for them to get the deposit little by little.
Sure.
Okay.
So that's really interesting in that you're really kind of, and I didn't pay you to say this, but you're really stating all the things that Dash will be doing in terms of showcasing only pre and new construction projects.
Mhm.
for agents only. So we believe that Dash will accommodate and be able to provide all this content that is accurate and up to date, that's provided to us by developers and approved by them before we publish it. So thank you for that lead in. But I wanted to.
Absolutely. I didn't know, but I think that is so much needed because all these agents have no idea. And how are they going to be able to compare if a building that is already existing has a better opportunity at the moment than a pre-construction project, so they need to have everything.
You're absolutely right, and that's what the Dash is going to provide. Let me pivot a little bit and talk about your role as a director of sale. You have to field a team. You have to put together credible, capable associates. How how do you make these determinations in these selection process? What is your recipe for finding the right meld of talents to represent a project? It cannot be so easy today, or is it?
Well, something that when I've had that title in my career many years, many times, I'm very happy to say that I don't have a project to manage anymore. I'm done. I think I'm trying to. I don't want big titles, right now. I honestly, I want to work, but I don't want to have 20, 30 people honestly under me at this moment. But when I've had to make those decisions, I do tell you, number one, everybody in this industry knows each other. So that is my number one thing okay, my number one. So whatever reputation you build in this industry, be careful, be aware, because you build it once and you can demolish it very quickly.
Sure.
So I definitely go by relationships, number one. And there's, again, very few people that in this business I believe are highly qualified to know this job from the ground up, you know. Obviously, to work with incredible and like reputable architects, and an incredible, like you, I mean, your team knew exactly what to do from the marketing aspect to how and who we were targeting at the moment. And that was a huge deal. Why? Because you cannot sell a project thinking that Tampa Bay, I'm going to sell Tampa Bay with the same ideas that I am selling Privet Island, or I'm selling Brickell City Center. Obviously, it's a complete different world, and you need to know what you're doing. So, number one, I would definitely go to by relationships. Who do I know? I try not to rely on newbies. I really don't. I have one shot to build a project,
Right.
and I can play real estate development.
Mm.
So when you are going to select a team, I don't gamble. I know exactly what to expect from the team. I already most likely know who they are, and I know most likely I already know who I am handling, who's handling my marketing and sales and advertising because I've worked with them. It's very rare that I would, let's say I'm going to go take a project tomorrow and I'm just going to select a company I have never worked with at this age, at 51. No, I'm so sorry. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I think we're all very good at what we do, and we just simply get better with the years. I don't need to reinvent it. So,
Well, I think you still have a few more good years in you, kiddo. But let me ask you a question, since the arc of your career is rather considerable. But 2 decades on, how would you begin to define the level of what is now called high end residential versus what, let's call it 10 or 15 years ago, what was high end residential? What are the components?
this is a great one.
What are the
This is
components today that developers have to bring to,
the standard.
yeah,
This is so much fun. You know what? Because I think the word luxury, okay, is today used. I'm not even going to say the word, okay? But everybody thinks I have a luxury project. And many years out, and they still deliver, a kitchen or a stove that is $1,000, okay, versus a lac renew that I have in Aquilina, which is $4,210,000 each lac renew stove, okay.
no,
So I believe that that is the best example that I can give you. I remember back in 2009, 2003. our entire budget for the kitchen was $4,000 and $6,000, you know. And listen, my pizza oven at the estate Santa Colina is $17,000. Okay, the pizza oven in every home at the North Tower.
Yeah.
So closets, we would not deliver closets because every unit was decorated ready.
Yes.
Okay. And that concept was really just you deliver the four walls, the kitchen, no flooring, and the bathroom had to have a floor because the city is a requirement. And that was great. That was good enough. No,
Yeah.
that was it.
Right.
Now, no, I think that's fun because we have learned so much, and we have learned that the type of buyer we have now in the city is willing to pay, is willing to pay to deliver something done. They're busy people.
Yeah.
They're worldly, they're successful, they're sophisticated, and they don't want to deal with the little things, the construction, the designing.
Yeah.
No, they want it done. So you need to be ready in this business to sit down with designers back and forth and check that that unit when you deliver it is impeccably done, from the wallpaper to the blackouts, the shades. Actually, I have a picture on my Instagram that you need to look at.
Okay.
And I delivered a unit about just recently. So 2 weeks ago or so, I delivered a unit with more than 50 boxes of Tiffany. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because all of the silverware and plates, dishes that were bought were from Tiffany. Okay. And I'm just working on another home for from Christopher. So that's the type of buyer that we have at the estates at
She's
Aquilina.
really, yeah, no, I know that. Where do you think, given where South Florida residential real estate is today, where do you think we go from here? If I'd said to you 5 or 6 years ago that some of the new projects are starting at 25, 35, $4,000 a foot, you'd look at me like I had three heads. But that's certainly the environment we're in today. Where do you see, if you had a crystal ball in 2 or 3 or 4 years, where do you think new projects are going to start from a price standpoint? How high can this
Something
market
depending on the
go?
area, I believe that the $3,000 to $4,000 benchmark for high-end ultra luxury is something that we should all get used to it. I really don't see that as nothing extraordinary, to be honest with you, because we already know what we can build, and we already know that what we're building is not enough because we have too many people. For example, let me explain to you. Now the holidays, and we are seeing how so many families that have purchased high-end luxury homes
Mm,
in the past 3 years, their families are visiting
yeah,
for the holidays. They're not spending the winter in Toronto, okay, and many in New York when you have a home here now.
right.
So their entire families here, and all of them are, Adri, I want to look at this. My family, my friend, my brother. Listen, where are we going to sell them what? Because in my case, I only have 18 resales in the entire estate at Aquilina, and I don't have any developer inventory, and we don't have another development being delivered in the beach in South Florida for another probably 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So we need to get to work, but we need to do it better, greater than we have ever done, and get excited about creating something awesome because we already know that the people are there to buy it. And South Florida, listen, our weather is not going to change.
Nope.
The fine dining is not going to leave us. Major Food Group is not going anywhere, okay?
Right.
Which I love them, by the way.
Sure.
And Bal Harbor Shops is not going to go away in the design district. So, listen, just build it because they're going to keep coming.
Well, that's really the that's really the philosophy that so many developers have today. What do you think the consequence? I mean, so many projects are being announced and introduced, and yet to those projects which are not yet shovel ready as a result of financing and or other benchmarks that developers wait for so many contracts before they want to pull the trigger for their construction financing. Um, do you where How would you predict and project over the next X number of months that you think that will change, where we'll hear more about you know,
Not happening.
no, well, either not happening and or they are happening, meaning they have reached
Mhm.
those milestones of converted contracts.
Yes, I think that we are at a point in our industry where the boys are being separated by the man in this
Yep.
business. Okay.
Yep.
And I believe that all of us, when we represent a developer, we need to be extremely mindful of who we represent. And also, if you're an agent that is listening to this, do your due diligence. You need to put the name of that developer on your computer and you need to Google the person. Because when your buyer finds out that your developer has been sued 20 times, because, he went bankrupt, I don't know how many times, and he did this. Listen, don't blame anyone because you're going to lose your client, okay? Because you didn't do your homework. So at this point, we all have to be very careful and on who do we represent, all of us. And if you're an agent, don't take your client to a developer who has financial situations because listen, what are you doing? You only have one reputation as an agent, and they're going to say, don't use this person anymore.
True.
And I do believe that because of COVID, remember, the construction costs went up so much,
Yep.
okay,
Yes.
that we have projects that have been delayed for like almost 2 years now. And that is why we don't see 60 cranes on the air, okay? We barely have any cranes on the air on 2023 when we were supposed to begin a new cycle in 2020.
Yep.
And that hasn't really fully happened, okay? So we do have situations with projects that the cost went up 20-30%. And honestly, they're going to have to do some restructuring in terms of pricings. And I know it, obviously. Everybody that is in this industry obviously is aware, and just be ready for that. If you did your contract like 2-3 years ago, listen, it is normal if they tell you, listen, the price went up this much and do you want it, do you still want to keep it? That is possible. And if you chose a very knowledgeable and reputable developer, most likely you're just not going to have a problem. So anything, the next time that you offer a pre-construction project, just do your homework. Please, you need to do your homework before you sign to work for a developer. Actually, I want to say this, Len, if you allow me.
Sure.
We all need to understand that when we go into pre-construction sales and you work for a developer and your project can be built, you wasted 1 or 2 years of your time.
Yep.
So maybe you do need a job badly, but I imagine it's not bad enough for you to waste 2 to 5 years of your life. And it has happened to me. I work for developers and they have gone bankrupt and they haven't paid me.
Mm.
So Adriana Vargas has gone through that and I have learned the hard way. So listen, do your homework and check your contracts. If they are not going to let you go after you finish selling the project and they are telling you we're going to keep all your commissions, you need to stay here until delivery, absolutely, that is not a contract that you want to sign. You are selling the project, you sell and you move to the next one. Don't let anyone handcuff you in this industry.
So those are really rather wise words. I certainly couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you a question. This is a time machine question, which I like to ask everybody in the podcast. So let's go back 25 years. You are now talking to your 25-year-old self. What advice would you give Adriana at the age of 25, just really beginning to find
Oh,
her stride in this business? What would you say?
something, 25 years ago, 27 years ago, the the manager at my project told me that I was just not good enough. Okay. And that is something that I'm so excited. Listen, I'm proud to say that. Do you know why? Because I took it upon myself to polish every aspect of myself, to learn how to literally from shaking your hand
Mm.
to the way I look at you, the way I walk, the way I give a presentation, the way I speak. I learned to read 2, 3 books a week. I'm not kidding. I literally have done every course that you can think of in this country, from Dale Carnegie down.
Mm,
Um, I have done it. And still until today, sometimes I listen to two books a week. I drive from Miami, Coral Gables to Sunny Isles. This is where my office is. And I listen to books every week. That is the advice that I'm going to give you
mm,
because it made a huge difference in my life.
yeah. It's really interesting that we tend to remember the more challenging times in our lives and relive them with a good deal of frequency than all of the glory that we have accomplished in our careers. And so, what it sounds like is that was an entirely motivating moment to be told at a young age, you just don't have it quite yet, kid. Go find it.
But think about it. I came from Puerto Rico at the age of 16 years old, coming to school, to go to college. I barely spoke any English, okay? I am Puerto Rican. My mother is Cuban.
Mm,
And I went to college to get an associate's degree to learn English. And you know what? Selling, in Miami Lakes, listen, it was a whole new world for me. But I am so grateful to all the people that open a door and a window in this business, but I'm even more grateful to the people that closed them because that gave me that, to work harder on myself and to have this commitment that I have developed over the years to be this consistent and to show up to work. Listen, you can say, oh my God, you have sold this amount of millions of dollars in this project, hundreds of millions. That doesn't mean that I am going to work any less. That doesn't mean that I'm just going to, I don't care. No, absolutely not. You have a responsibility to show up, to be there for your developer, to be there for your client. And I am going to close this question like Sunday. I have this amazing client that I adore. She's 75 years old and she's one of my favorite clients in the world. And she called me at 8 a.m. and she said, Adri, do you think I can get someone to iron my sheets? And it's Sunday morning at 8 a.m.
mm.
And you know something? I got on my phone, I got someone, and at 11 o'clock, they were on the door to iron my client's sheets the way she wants them.
That's
Okay. So,
Yeah. So, it's really interesting because I want to wrap this up, but I wanted to say to you, because you're proof positive of it, is that what they say is that there's a saying that life's not what's happened to you. Life's about how you respond to what's happened to you. And boy, are you an amazing example about how you've responded in the ups and downs of this business. And the star have been for a long, long time. I can't thank you enough for giving me an hour of
oh,
your time today, kiddo. I really do appreciate
listen, Len, thank you for allowing me to help someone out there.
that.
And if you're going through a difficult time, you know what? It gets better. Don't give up in the business. This business is so generous. If you are consistent, responsible, and your values are always in the front of you. Okay. Mwah.